And it isn't their mental illness that stops them from being able to deal with it, although that, you know, whatever weaknesses you have are going to interfere. It's the fact that what they're facing is no damn joke, and if you were facing it, you'd feel exactly the same way. So then you're trying to come up with practical solutions to these tremendously complex problems. And that's a very, well, it's extraordinarily difficult, generally speaking. People often don't come to a therapist until they've exhausted their entire range of resources. They cannot figure out what to do. And so, you know, in a situation like that, you can administer antidepressants, and maybe that'll help the person increase their stress resistance. But and it may be that because they're depressed and have been brought down, that they are in fact exaggerating the danger of some of the smaller monsters that are after them. But making the person more stress resilient doesn't give them, for example, a new job, and it certainly doesn't bring back the person they've been living with for 2 years who has a degenerating neurological disease or some form of cancer. Like, these things are major. You know, I often see people who, well, they're in a relationship, maybe they're rather isolated, older people. One of the partners is dying and their entire financial situation has become catastrophic. It's like, that's not a mental illness, man. I mean, they may have got into that situation because of one inadequacy or another, but you don't even want to push that too far, because that sort of thing can happen to anyone, and will in fact happen to most people in one form or another, at least at some point in their lives. So you want to be damn prepared for that. You want to be prepared for that, because it's bitter and harsh and anxiety provoking and painful. But if you're not ready, then it's also hell. And often you can stop things from becoming hell, even though you can't stop them from being bitter and painful and anxiety provoking and all of that. You can at least delimit the catastrophe enough so that it doesn't permanently bring you and the people around you down. And that's not so bad, right? That's a hell, or at least it's a lot better than the alternative. So this is the problem, you know. Things object, things are obstacles. Well, how big is the obstacle? It's the same question as how big is the predator that's lurking outside the door of our cave. It's exactly the same problem, except conceptualized abstractly, and I would say exactly the same systems that your distant ancestors used to conceptualize the lurking predator are the systems that are activated now when you encounter the re-emergence of all the monsters that you've ignored. It's the same neurological platform. You think, well, how could it be otherwise? Because evolution is a conservative process. Everything about you is built on ancient foundations, right? Very little new, certainly very little radically new, comes into existence. It's mostly tinkering with structures that have been around forever, like your body plan, for example. That's unbelievably old. I mean, you share that with lizards, roughly speaking. So it's incredibly ancient. So, you know, when you share bilateral symmetry, even with most invertebrates. So those things are extraordinarily old. And so for our ancestors, what was down out of the tree, let's say, down in the grass, that was the thing that lurked in the unknown. Well, for us, the idea of the unknown has become much more abstractly conceptualized. Like, we can think of the unknown as such, things we don't know. And so then we can think of the abstract predator. And the abstract predator is the thing that lurks in the unknown that always confronts us. Now, because people are strange and complex creatures, and because we're partly predators and partly prey animals, we don't only conceptualize the thing that lurks in the unknown as a devouring predator. We also conceptualize it as something that offers possibility, because we've learned that if we go into the unknown, we can find things that we need for now and for the medium and for the long term. It can be beneficial for us to confront the things that we don't know. And that's human beings in a nutshell. That's what we do. And so that's the basis. That's why I believe that's the most archetypal story, because it fundamentally characterizes our mode of being in the world. We're information foragers. We go out into the unknown, the terrifying unknown, and we gather things of value.